The All Blacks will be announcing their first lineup of the Rugby Championship tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. New Zealand time. And before we find out exactly who is going to be playing in this video, I'll be giving my lineup that I would like to see. Now, earlier on in the week, I did a lineup prediction of what I thought Scott Robertson might select. Now, that will be wrong because there has been an injury update and Wallace Satiti not going to be playing in this contest. So in this lineup, I've made a few changes compared to that, more so what I think would be the strongest lineup heading into this match. But jumping straight into it, I have the identical front row: Ethan de Groot number 1, Cody Taylor number 2, and Fletcher Null slotting in as number 3 due to Lomax's injury. He will not be available playing this match. Now, his injury cover is Tavita Mafaleo, but I don't think they're going to throw him right in the deep end for this contest. There is a chance that maybe we see him make his way off the bench. But for me, the best combination that they can go with and also build upon from a bit earlier on in the year, Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, and also Fletcher Null. But moving on to the locks, this is actually where I have a change compared to the prediction. Now, number 4, I've got Patrick Tuipulotu. Now, I believe Scott Barrett will be back in time for this match, but the problem is, definitely after seeing the fact that Wallace Satiti needs an extra week, same with Mighty Williams, I'm slightly concerned they're going to try and rush Scott Barrett back in, and in which case, if he does end up re-injuring that calf, he could be out for the rest of the Rugby Championship. So I don't think it hurts to give him one more week to be able to recover. He is back training with the squad, so like I said, more than likely will be selected, but the last thing that the All Blacks want is for him to go down with an injury before the big matches up against the Springboks. But I also felt like Patrick Tuipulotu partnered very nicely with who I've selected at number 5, Fabian Holland. Those two men in the last match up against the French did seem to be on the same page. So honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing it again to start off. In the Rugby Championship, the loose forward trio. This is where it gets tricky. Now, like I mentioned, Wallace Satiti, he will not be available for this match. That has been clarified by Scott Robertson. Same with Mighty Williams. But there's that big question mark of whether or not, for the All Blacks' sake, they are going to go Tupavai, Duplessis Karefi, and Ardie Savia. Now, to me, that looks like the most likely trio that we would see. But for myself, in terms of what I'd like to see for this first match, I feel like it's the perfect opportunity to give someone else a run in that number 8 jersey. Definitely if you're looking at Ardie Savia as a predominant 7. So I've gone Tupavai, still at number 6. I actually quite like him on the blind side at the moment. Ardie Savia, number 7, and he would also be captain for my All Blacks side. And then number 8, Simon Parker. Now, this would be his All Blacks debut. Some people, I'll be honest, when he got selected in that All Blacks side, didn't even know who that man was, but he plays well for Northland in the Bunnings NPC. He played extremely well for the Chiefs. And if it wasn't for a late season injury in Super Rugby, I honestly think he might have been a bolter from the get-go for that All Blacks 2025 squad. But he's got the size, the strength. He's an option in the line-out. And why not chuck him in for this first match up against the Pumas? Yes, it could be considered a little bit risky, but I do think having that little bit of extra shunt from the back when it comes to that loose board trio could be exactly what the All Blacks need to match that physicality of Los Pumas. The other option, of course, is a Peter Lakai to go on that number 8 jersey, but I am saving him for later on. Into the lineup, in the 19 combination, Cortez Rataman, number 9, Beauden Barrett as the number 10. Now, with the injury of Cam Roigard, it does mean no matter what, we are going to get to see that change at 9. Ratama has been in the environment for the longest out of the 3 that they've got. Yes, Finlay Christie has more caps, but currently based off 2024, you've at least got that consistency of Ratama being in that All Blacks camp. So that is why I go with him as the number 9. Beauden Barrett, I do think they see him as the first choice, and at the moment, based off current form, he is not doing too badly at all. I also like the impact of Damian McKenzie when he makes his way off the bench. Now, Beauden Barrett, he can also play that role, but just for this lineup, I like to see that Ratama-Barrett combo as the 9-10. In the midfield, this is where, just like my Scott Robertson selection, I've gone Geordie Barrett, number 12, Billy Proctor, number 13. I was extremely tempted to throw Timothy Tavatavanawai into that number 12 jersey, but I just don't know if this first match up against Argentina, definitely when the All Blacks lost their opener to the Argentines last year, is the time to go for wholesale changes. So I've already got a couple across that 4-pack. Felt like I needed to rein it in that little bit for the back line. So the Barrett and Proctor combo, it's one that I believe the All Blacks will build upon. Now, Geordie Barrett off the bench would also be an extremely dangerous option. And perhaps there is a world where we see 3 Barretts make their way off the bench in this game. But Geordie Barrett, I feel, has done more than enough to show that he is the starting 12 for New Zealand throughout this year. In the back 3, number 11, I've got Rieko Ioane. I wanted to go with Leroy Carter, but I just don't think we will see Leroy Carter as well as the man who I've selected on the right wing, which is Amoni Narawa. So I have gone with him rather than the prediction of Sevu Reece, which I do think is where Scott Robertson might be leaning towards. But I believe if you look at it from Scott Robertson's standpoint, I doubt he'd go with Narawa and Carter, but he might go with, let's say, Ioane and Narawa, or perhaps Leroy Carter and Sevu Reece. I just don't see him switching both. So I want to see Amoni Narawa get another chance for the All Blacks. He was a little bit lackluster in the last match that he was able to play him, but I also think that's because they just never really got him the ball. Did some pretty decent things defensively, though, as he does throughout the Super Rugby Pacific season. So I chuck Amoni Narawa at number 14 jersey. Will Jordan as the number 15. I saw someone earlier on this week say Will Jordan's a terrible fullback. And I was a little bit confused because that man, you know, he is a 15. They wanted to see him on the right wing, which of course is an option with Will Jordan, and maybe in this lineup you could even go Will Jordan 14, Ruben Love as the 15. But Will Jordan, he is on track to become one of the most prolific try scorers in All Blacks history, whether he's out on the right wing or whether he's at fullback. He does score a lot. He's also got some sort of chemistry building with Beauden Barrett, so that is a dangerous duo when he is in that 15 jersey rather than out on the wing where sometimes just doesn't quite touch that ball enough. So I'm sticking with Will Jordan as that number 15. Moving on to the bench. Now, number 16, I believe they will go Samisoni Taukei'aho. But this is actually where I've gone Brodie McAllister. Now, the man only has 1 cap. And the reason that I've decided to select him here is because there was some news not too long ago that said Asafo Aumua is going to be back for Wellington in the Bunnings NPC, and more than likely he will be looked at as a November international All Black option. But for Brodie McAllister, I feel this Rugby Championship may be his last big chance to prove that he should have that 3rd spot rather than Asafo Aumua, because a lot of people feel Aumua walks his way back into this All Black side. So Brodie McAllister, if he's not getting minutes throughout this Rugby Championship, I feel like that's pretty much guaranteed. But I would at least like to see McAllister get maybe 3 or 4 games before November, even if it is off the bench, just to see what he can do in the international kit. He was a little bit nervous, I think, in his debut. Did score himself the try, though, so perhaps can build upon that if given some more minutes. Number 17, Ollie Norris, and number 18, Pasili Otosi. Like I said, this is where Mafaleo maybe could have slotted in, but I decided that Norris and Tosi combo was the one I wanted to keep together for this match. Number 19, Samipeni Finau. Bit of a curveball, although it is something the All Blacks have done in the past. In this case, he would be my replacement 6, with Vai going into the locks if anything was to happen to one of the 2 starters. Scott Barrett just coming back from that injury. I once again don't want to risk him, so that's where Finau could slot in there. Plus Josh Lord, I'm not sure whether or not I would give him that 19 jersey over Finau just currently. Maybe after a couple games he could take that spot, but just because it's something they've already done, I've decided to go with Finau 19. And then number 20, this is where I've thrown in Peter Larkai. So no Duplessis Karefi across the starting lineup, all reserves for myself. Nothing against the guy. In fact, I thought he was absolutely insane throughout Super Rugby Pacific with his turnover ability. But Larkai offers you all 3 of those jerseys in the loose forward trio, predominantly 7 and 8. So I do think he could be a great option for the All Blacks off the bench, mainly because Wallace Satiti will be back either next week or the match is up against South Africa. So I kind of want to see not just Peter Larkai, but also Simon Parker get a run before Satiti comes back, as I do think once he's back, he'll probably take priority over the both of them. Number 21, this is where I want to see Kyle Preston get the opportunity. Now, Razor may more than likely go with Finlay Christie in that number 21 jersey for that bit more experience near the end of the game, but Preston has got a lot of talent. He can kick off both feet. He's got a lot of pace. He's He's got good vision, some solid passing too. So I want to see what he can do up against this Pumas team. Number 22, Damian McKenzie. No real surprises there. I guess you could look at Ruben Love as a replacement first five or fullback in this contest, but I do think that McKenzie has done more than enough to have some spot across this 23-man side. And then 23, just like I think Razor will do, I've gone to Mothi Tava that turnover ability later on in the contest. That's where you can slightly get away with no Duplessis Karefi because you've still got Tava Nawai, who was the leader when it came to turnovers won throughout Super Rugby Pacific. So I do want to see him get more minutes, and perhaps this game could be the perfect chance to give him some more of those. But nonetheless, that is my 23-man side that I'd like to see. I will reiterate, this is not what I think Scott Robertson will select. We have already done that video a little bit earlier on in the week, and there are quite a few changes compared to what I've gone here. I would almost argue that mine is a little bit more risky. The one that I picked earlier, I think, was a pretty safe lineup, and it's hard to say whether or not Scott Robertson will take risks heading into this first test match. But the good news is, in only around 14 hours' time, we will know exactly who has made that side. 8:30 a.m. New Zealand time. We will have the video coming out straight after the lineup is announced, so be sure to check that out. Do let me know who you would like to see in your All Blacks 23 for this contest too. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.